On April 11th, just 1 month after showcasing the Acer Predator Helios 500, the Taiwanese manufacturer already announced its successor in New York, Predator Helios 700, an unusual laptop with a revolutionary design and hyperdrift keyboard, the world-famous Magforce keys and so on. Not 2 months later, we're pleased to exclusively cover the incredible performance of this Predator King. And the icing on the cake for us is getting to cover our first gaming laptop equipped with an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080 laptop GPU. No, not the Max-Q version. I had a déjà vu at first glance. The same chassis as the Helios 500, big, thick, heavy. It's intimidating to see, like sitting next to a heavyweight K1 fighter. 42 mm thick. The bottom alone is 3 cm thick. That's when a bulb lights up, making you ponder what's going on. What moves this monster machine? But let's not get carried away by the design and focus on what really had me gasping. A Transformer Prime disguised as a gaming laptop. Not so long ago, I pointed out the lack of innovation in the laptop market, and I'm excited to see exceptions, such as the secondary screen featured by the Omen X2S. Well, Acer engineers managed to surprise me when I saw the new engineering marvel called Hyperdrift keyboard for myself. In addition to the sci-fi movie-like sound and memorable viewing experience, this unique approach by Acer engineers and designers had a whole different purpose than impressing with PR aesthetic effects or marketing. Namely, the cooling. Because as you've become accustomed to these days, it's not hard to stick in a 45-watt CPU, such as Intel Core i9-9080HK on this laptop, and even desktop Intel Core i9s from the likes of Alienware Area 51M alongside video cards that are very close to their desktop counterparts. No, the challenge is to cool these components, and not just cool them, but to do so without making them sound like drones taking flight. When the keypad is pulled towards the user, 2 large air intakes pop up. The airflow doubles in order to cool down the GPU as well as the CPU. Either way, the laptop's bottom, as with any self-respecting powerful gaming laptop, features 2 large and generous intakes, through which cold air is pulled straight into the fans. But the upper 2 intakes are more efficient, dense and bigger, flowing more air than the ones on the underside. Between the 2 intakes, the designers thought it's a shame not to show you the heat pipes through a window that you can illuminate as you wish. The semi-transparent glass over the heat pipes, depending on the LED color, user customizable, we can see more or less of the heat pipes. Like the Predator Helios 500, 4 large exhausts ensure ideal operating temperatures, even under the heaviest loads. And no headphones are required. But we will be back with more details on noise and temperatures later. Because of the laptop's thickness, a wrist pad is recommended, and that's what Acer engineers did. When the keyboard slides towards the user about 10 cm or the exact depth of the palm rest and the touchpad will extend beyond the edge of the laptop. When the keyboard is pulled, the palm rest will tilt to a 10-degree angle, enough to touch the table surface, creating a ramp and providing a wrist pad for comfortable writing. What's under the hood? Intel Core i9-9080HK. We met this incredible CPU a while back when we reviewed the Omen X2S with clocks between 2.4 and 5 gig. Its TDP is 45 watts, but don't stress it too hard. That's it. Try not to fully load all 8 cores and 16 threads or else. On one condition, of course: provide sufficient cooling, prevent throttling, and make sure the CPU won't clock down before it can really show its true colors. Well, I've encountered this GPU before and I was amazed not just by how it behaved at default settings, but especially after sliding the Hyperdrift keyboard out and enabling auto overclock. GeForce RTX 2080 laptop is a 150 watts video card. It's a first for us. Pairs well with fat housings and powerful cooling system. But since this is a world first review, I'd like to steal 2 minutes of our time to dig a little deeper into what the GeForce RTX 2080 laptop represents and where this GPU falls between the RTX 2080 desktop and Max-Q version. Okay, so check out the chart. The Helios 700 model clocks using the RTX 2080 laptop version are barely under the desktop model. Specifically, base clocks were dropped 9% and boost clocks were dropped 7%. This translates into an average penalty of about 10% in games. In other words, the laptop model manages to stay very close to its bigger brother, but its massive 150 power consumption recommends it for relatively bulky laptops such as the Helios 700. Comparing the three existing RTX 2080 models, if we take the desktop model as a reference, the middle one shows 5 to 10% less performance and the right model 20 to 30% less performance. For ultra-portable laptops, the more eco-friendly Max-Q version is more suitable, but the performance hit compared to the laptop model is over 20%, going on 30%, so less heat and power draw, but they're pretty far away from the RTX 2080 laptop found in the Helios 700. What about SSDs, HDDs and memories? The Helios 700 we tested is top of the line spec, offering everything you could want. Two Western Digital SN720 ultra-fast 512GB SSDs in RAID 0. A generous 2TB Seagate Mobile HDD. And the cherry on top, the full spec comes with 64GB of memory in 4 Kingston 2666 MHz DDR4 DIMMs. So, in this configuration, I would first recommend the laptop to video editors, with gamers as a secondary audience. The SSDs are in RAID 0, but they hit a speed limit against the 4X PCI interface. We first saw the AU0319D panel made by AU Optronics in the recent Helios 500, and we were impressed. Our old Spider 4 still has good eyes, which immediately noticed the smallest deviation of light or color. I prefer Full HD or 2K on a 17-inch screen instead of a 4K panel, and I think most gamers share my preference. In games, the IPS display is ideal. G-Sync guarantees a smooth game without jerking, tearing or stuttering. The color coverage is average. The AUO panel is quite modest for photo-video editing, as it doesn't excel in either brightness, contrast or color space. Color uniformity in the 9 measured regions. Delta E less than 1 means that the human eye cannot perceive color differences. 1, 2 is a perceptible difference, while a value of 2 to 10 means that the difference is very easy to notice. The keyboard, it's a real jewel and a big surprise. MagForce keys. So what about the MagForce keys? We said, yeah, it's another pompous name, I thought. But the MagForce keys are actually switches that behave like analog switches, like pressing and depressing a gas pedal to speed up or slow down. I could not have been more wrong. Oh, how great my amazement was when I figured out how the WSD keys behave. Not only is the tactile feedback, or lack thereof, different from the rest of the keys, the way you press them down matters. The keyboard sliding is simply superb. The tactile feedback, the long travel path and especially the inner illumination of the keys were delightful, a real pleasure even though this isn't one of the fastest typing keyboards. Performance, temperatures, overclocking and noise. In 3D Mark Timespy we had 10,192 points. Bam! Predator 700 just broke the 10K Timespy ceiling on a laptop, or the 20K ceiling in Firestrike. Yes, the new records left the competition behind with 10 to 20%, even 30% in some games. In most games, it kept up with my 8700K and RTX 2080 desktop system. Obviously, the final results we're going to use in comparisons are obtained with the keyboard slid out to squeeze all the performance from this machine. A well-cooled CPU will work at higher clocks when needed. This chart shows how the system responds to extra airflow and the increased boost clocks of the GeForce RTX 2080 laptop GPU. The results are there, but slightly disappointing. The only tests to take advantage of the extra airflow and higher clocks were Metro Exodus and 3D Mark. Differences are not that big when sliding out the keyboard, but the system runs cooler and quieter more often. Temperatures were more than decent. In games, CPU temperatures varied between 60 and 70 degrees Celsius in most situations, with brief spikes up to 70 to 80 degrees Celsius, but no time spent at 90 or above, as i9 variants have behaved in the past. Acer Predator Helios 700 with its RTX 2080 laptop has no competition at the moment. This is the coolest i9 we've seen so far, and the GeForce RTX 2080 laptop GPU did not exceed 70 degrees Celsius. During gaming, the CPU maintains 60 to 70 degrees Celsius and very rare spikes up to 80. So how did Acer accomplish this? Well, it could be the 5 heat pipes, maybe the new vapor chamber introduced with this model, a technology with performance figures we keep bringing up on flashing laptops. The Far Cry series, for example, is showing the limitations of laptops, but look at what our Predator 700 accomplished in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Metro Exodus. Unfortunately, only the top trim version features a vapor chamber, and that's understandable. It's not every day you see a 150-watt TDP GPU, isn't it? In games with the auto overclock turned on and the keyboard slid open, we found the RTX 2080 laptop pulling almost 180 watts of power. Yes, 180 watts of power consumption in some games, and still it remained below 70 degrees Celsius. Incredible. And thanks to NVIDIA GPUs 4.0 technology, which tunes performance based on temperature, voltage and power consumption, many games saw the GPU reach a 1920 MHz clock speed. If the GPU has enough voltage, doesn't run too hot, and is allowed to draw more power, the boost clock goes over 1900 MHz without the user needing to worry about overclocking settings. By comparison, the Intel Core i9-9090-80HK CPU was very well behaved, drawing no more than 65 watts in the most demanding scenario, actually in Cinebench. The Aeroblade Fan Noise on the Helios 700 is below that heard on the Helios 500, most likely due to the better airflow and more efficient cooling system. In long sessions, fans get loud when spinning past 4000 RPM, going over the 50 decibels barrier and prompting a switch to headphones. But 90% of the time the system remains in the average laptop noise range, so 40 to 45 decibels. Helios 700 offers an abundance of USB ports, USB-A 3.1, USB-A 2.0, 2 USB Type-C, one delivering Thunderbolt 3 and another bringing VR+. Yes, that virtual link dedicated to VR headsets. This port will deliver all video, audio, data, power, all through one port. Very important for buyers of VR headsets over the next few years. Additionally, we have the now classic HDMI 2.0 DP LAN, the newest killer E3000 model, 2.5 gigabit enabled. And last but not least, for those who want to bring their machine out to events such as gaming competition or Comic-Cons, the Kensington Lock. The 72 watts per hour Panasonic battery is small for such a beast, and we barely squeezed 2 hours of life from the machine, with 50% brightness and the keyboard lighting turned down, while surfing the internet and watching some YouTube. It could have been much better, see the 90 watts per hour battery in Alienware Area 51M, but that's that. I assume Acer engineers have excluded using the laptop on the battery. The auto overclock mode does not work on battery anyway, obviously. A super high performance laptop with a fresh cooling system design. And while the screen design seems stuck in 2017-2018 with thick bezels, once we slide the keyboard out and reveal the illuminated glass showing the heat pipes, and once the palm rest turns into a wrist pad, things take a radical turn, from a frog to a prince, or the Transformer Prime returns to its true form, shedding the mainstream design. We expect to see the machine soon, with the price of $2,700 in the US, or 2,700 euros in European Union. If that includes VAT, that's not a bad price. On the contrary, it's aggressive, like the whole machine. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please do not forget to subscribe, and also please turn on the notifications bell. Thank you.